All right, here we go, Cowboys fans. Welcome into How About Wow. You know, at one point, the Chiefs were a terrifying matchup on this schedule. I know we all wrote it in with ink. That's a big old L, but they are different this year. It's looking more doable than ever, to the point that I think Cowboys +3 at home. It's a mistake from Vegas. We also have Ceedee Lamb updates, George Pickens, Donovan Ezeraki, Tyler Guyton, and more, as the Cowboys have not lost to the Chiefs in Dallas in 50 years. You got to go back to 1975 to find it. So take it away, Jimmy. Let's do this.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about this Cowboys?
Yeah, I'm Gavin Dawson from the Fan 2 to 7 every day. He is the all-academic SEC lineman, New Bear Lesnewski, buddy. How we doing this week? You fired up for this game?
I am, and I got to tell a condensed story. Joe Montana kid growing up. My whole family's from Chicago, half Irish, and they went. San Francisco wins all those Super Bowls. Montana, the chicken soup game, all the stories you hear. He gets traded to Kansas City. Every year, my old man had bets with this guy down in Kansas City. Chicago teams win. He sends Chicago food. Kansas City send the barbecue up. We send pizzas down. Awesome relationship. We go down. We go to Worlds of Fun. We catch Montana's hurt. It's going to be Steve Bono. And I'm still pissed to this day because my mom would not buy me a Montana jersey because I was pissed that the Niners sent him packing, even though I love Steve Young. And we go to the game. We lose my brother. Like, we lose him everywhere. What's he wearing? A red sweatshirt? Red. Yeah, that'll be easy to find. He's down on the field getting autographs because my brother was one of those kids who was adorable and could skip past security. We go through the whole game. The motorcycles on the field. Like, it's Raiders, Chiefs, one of the best rivalries, of the 90s. And my stepdad to this day is so proud of the fact that we were halfway home because we beat traffic when James Hasty had the pick six in overtime.
Ooh,
Which would have been right in front of us. But there's more than corn in Indiana. At Indiana beat. I fucking get so mad when I talk about the Chiefs. And I you know what? Once I solve the Roman Wilson problem with my eBay cart, we'll get on the Joe Montana archives.
I'm not mad at that. Getting out of these stadiums can take you an hour just to get out of the parking lot.
It's awful.
But you are playing with fate if you leave games early. Just ask our very own Brian Broaddus, who left game 1 of the 2023 World Series. And I'll never let him forget that, because usually I am leave early guy. Okay, so I've been talking all week. It's a 6-5 team, but this might be the best 6-5 team we've ever seen. Like, I want your thoughts on how we think about these Chiefs. Try to suspend your hate for Patrick Mahomes and your disdain for what happened 30 years ago as best as you can. Statistically, they're inside the top 10 in scoring and in defense. Analytically, they might be a better down in, down out football team than they were last year when they got back to the Super Bowl. But something's not coming together for this team, New Bear. And I got talked into betting on the Chiefs last year in the Super Bowl. You talk about regrets. All week long, I was saying these guys aren't hungry anymore. There's no urgency. I think the Chiefs became satisfied, and this is going to be the year that resets their hunger for winning, because I think they just felt like they were entitled to it and sort of lost track with the determination and the emotional intensity that you got to bring for all 60 minutes. And now they have been one of the worst clutch teams in the last decade in all of the NFL. Like, seriously, in the last 5 minutes, down 1 score or less, they only had 2 successful plays all year, if you go off success rate, until this game last week against the Colts.
So last year, this Taylor Swift stuff, I mean, the script writing, the refs, all of it out of control, right? Like, they got everything until the Super Bowl. My favorite thing that I wish I could bet on every week is how many, first of all, is it even going to be called? But then how many will? Juwan Taylor is literally illegal on every play. The Chiefs right tackle cheats. He's false starting and he's off the line of scrimmage. He does not split the median. They get away with so much. I loved Patrick Mahomes coming out. My hate for him is actually trading up for Mitchell Trubisky, My hate for him is actually the Bears, my childhood team, could have had Patrick Mahomes and picks, and instead went on a double secret probation trip to North Carolina and fell in love with Mitchell Trubisky. Now, they passed on Deshaun Watson, which at least at that point would have been understandable because he was not yet less affectionately known as Bill Cosby's grandson. But they passed on both those dudes after Mr. Trubisky.
Yeah,
so,
that was one of the all-timers. And a number of teams couldn't see the Patrick Mahomes greatness.
The Patrick Mahomes Baker Mayfield game is one of the most slept on least. It's like statistically Xbox and PlayStation made a baby with whatever it is. 4 verticals. Okay. Drop in the bucket. Oh, I need to go run for this one. Dad bod has got this on lock because he was even chubbier in college, and Baker was just ridiculous at Oklahoma. But, digression now, getting the better part of this. The Chiefs got every call, every break. Love, hate the dynasty. Believe, don't believe, WWE, NFL. You can't win as many one-score games as they did last year, just like you can't recover as many fumbles as you did, year to year. There are just some things that do not compute. And when the ball bounces your way enough times, and, you could argue that there was a lot of stuff that was, let's just say they were given the benefit of the doubt, however it shook out. Like, it was time to come a calling. And, oh, by the way, you do it in a way where it's not all of a sudden they're going to go 3-14. It's all of a sudden they're going to have to fight to get into the dance and not be, 15-2 resting starters in week 18. So the thing that's so terrifying about this team is, in Pittsburgh, you talk about, is TJ Watt still DPOY? Is he still all pro? Or is he just, air quotes, a Pro Bowler? That's the Chris Jones conversation. Where does the splash play? Where do the commensurate things on the offensive side of the ball come from when you've had so many guys in and out of the lineup, when you've had so many guys suspended, injured, and all the things that go and affect a quarterback who, quite frankly, likes to play off script and needs to have his guy get reps?
Yeah, but I guess my point would be, we're not talking about a 6-5 team that's a likely playoff afterthought coming in here. Like, the efficiency numbers mean something. It's bizarre that they've been, I think, 25th in the red zone since mid-year 2023. Like, if you take the last, I guess, 2 years of data, over 30 games worth, they became a bottom third team in the red zone. This, are they clutch? Are they not? I think the one real advantage the Cowboys have is just that the Chiefs' running game has really fallen off. I think they're going to get Pacheco back this week, but Patrick Mahomes leads them in 10-plus yard runs. As much as last week we talked about how Saquon Barkley had fallen off, and he's only getting an explosive run once in every 92 and a half touches, the Chiefs are worse. The Chiefs are worse at explosive run rate. It's entirely disappeared. So, when you look at 12-plus yard runs for Kansas City, they only got 8 of them. So if you believe the Cowboys are going to make them one-dimensional, just like they've done to the Raiders and Eagles, what does one-dimensional Patrick Mahomes with an aging Travis Kelce, Rice and Worthy just being pretty good receivers, like, will that be enough to suffocate Patrick Mahomes? I think it will. And this is accepting and respecting that the Chiefs are better than their record. I just think matchup-wise, Kansas City is not going to be balanced offensively, and defensively, they're not the same.
So if Patrick Mahomes, if they play all 17 games, he is on pace to run the ball more, I think 10, 15 times more than he ever has, right? I mean, he is on pace to, I think he's actually, if he were to run for like 50 or 60 yards in this game, he would set a new career high in rushing yards. So assuming that he's going to get 50 or 60 more yards, over the course of the next 6 games, this is going to be, in his age 30 season, the most successful, air quotes, rushing year for Patrick Mahomes, which is crazy to think about because they don't want to put him in harm's way. And he got the benefit of the doubt. No one's allowed to touch him. You've heard guys say they let him go on the sideline and actually gave up first downs, or he does that thing where he pretends like he's going to go out of bounds. That's why when Caleb Williams got pushed last week and everyone, first of all, Caleb Williams was still inbounds. It was a legal play. Mahomes does that thing where he dips and then he goes and steals 5, 7, 11 yards. And I think everyone is blown away by the fact that even with the two-headed duo of Hunt and Pacheco, Mahomes is the third leading rusher on this team. And some weeks he's the leading rusher in that game because they just can't get it going. And at the same time, you said 2023 was when the numbers started going down. When did Cheetah left in 2022 was his first year in Miami. And I think by year 2 and now we would be, half a decade less of no Cheetah. Who did they replace him with? A hodgepodge of nothingness.
Yeah.
So, Kelsey getting older and not being the same kind of guy, not just in the middle of the field, but run after the catch, right? And all the different things that Mahomes knows that he can count on. I think, if I'm not mistaken, right now Kelsey has like his highest drop percentage, like 8.5%, 9%. He's got his lowest contested catch percentage, like 33%. And I think his average depth of target is like 6.5 yards.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty close on those numbers. And, people talk about getting old fast and people talk about, I all the time say, how do you turn sticks into stick nod? And what Kelsey did that was so special was they had it built in where he goes 6 yards, catch the ball, fall down, do it twice, it's a first down. But he would do it where they didn't even have to talk about it. It was the body language, the leverage of a linebacker, the safeties changing post-snap, and Kelsey would just hit a whirly bird, and they would ruin your game plan. And that stuff just isn't there anymore. Mahomes is doing a way better job than I thought he would, given the fact that he's way more focused on pliability than speed or any of the I'm going to push this weight or I'm going to drag this sled because I'm going to run a 4.68, and all of a sudden we're seeing these rushing numbers because he's like a 4.8 guy. He doesn't even look like that sometimes when he's out there waddling around, right?
He's just nifty, clever,
and also takes advantage because you think you can turn your back and you have to protect because he could be falling down out to elbow, knee, whatever part of your one knee equals 2 feet, and he's down and it's over, and throw the Super Bowl ball. Like, everyone still thinks that's possible, and with his arm talent, it probably always will be. The thing I think that everyone thought would happen faster, and maybe the dynasty would get destroyed completely, is without a Cheetah, without a top taker offer, and with Kelsey aging the way he has, without Pacheco being able to stay healthy or Kareem Hunt at the same time, like, there's always something missing from this team.
Yeah.
Nobody expected Mahomes to just be the guy who was willing to kind of play like Jalen Hurts in some ways and just do whatever it took to get the dub and keep it moving.
No, he'd always had good protection in Kelsey. And then, I mean, the defense has been top 5 or even top 3 at times, which is really a thing that he and Brady have in common from all those times with the Patriots. I don't think they ever won a Super Bowl without a top 10 defense. So yeah, I don't think everybody in that organization has gotten enough credit for what they've done to build this dynasty. And they've just failed to draft as well as they did. If you're constantly having to look into free agency and trades to rebuild your offensive line, if your wide receivers are Mecole Hardman, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice, and none of those guys hit the top levels and become all pro guys, eventually it's going to be too much.
That's what's so interesting about it is Worthy looked like he might be that type of, and not Cheetah level, but X Factor Ubble, where you could, but then Rashee Rice thinks real life is Grand Theft Auto, and Kelsey and Worthy run into each other, and now all of a sudden your Olympic sprinter isn't on the field, and it's just like they're always missing something for one reason or another. And what I think what's so frustrating about the Colts last week is this should be a 5-6 team coming to the start.
And I almost prefer it to be 6-5 because they would have been so desperate and hungry. I mean, they're already playing for their playoff lives, but coming off a loss, coming off a win, that kind of goes to what I'm talking about with this team's hunger. Like they win a couple of games, they get out in some clean air and think, cool, we fixed it. They relax. They lose to, not bad teams. I think every team they've lost to has been a playoff team, but they don't have that oomph, I think, to close games, or that hunger that separates you and gives you, that desire, confidence, desperation when you can think back on all your championship rings. And then to compound that, like Travis Kelce just going Hollywood, like as soon as he grew that hair out, he's been a different guy. And I don't know if it's a coincidence that it was just the age, but it's sure not a good look.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that, buddy.
Yeah, it's tough, it's really not cool. It's one of the greater falls from grace for a classic dude that was quoting like rap lyrics and professional wrestlers, and all of a sudden you get super domesticated. I think that can absolutely have an impact on your playing ability. Got a Ceedee Lamb update here for you. 8 dropped passes, the most by a Cowboys player since Dez had 9 in 2012, 6 games to go. We said you want to be solution-oriented. You're not really dwelling much on the problem. Granted, we know the problem. I need to catch the bleeping ball. To me, that's another reason to be very confident in the Cowboys, because you're going to get laser-focused Ceedee Lamb. This will be one of his best games of the year. Schotty was asked and said he's got that look in his eye. It's the same look he had after the first game in Philly, and expect a lot of balls to go 88's way on Thursday. I think this is a blip on the radar of what should be one of, if not the single best wide receiver duo cooking in the NFL for the next 3 to 5 years.
I mean, can we just pause for a minute and remember who Ceedee Lamb is? Like, even Michael Jordan, you brought up earlier talking about the three-peats. I mean, he had some nights. He might have been in Atlantic City the night before, but can we just remind ourselves that this is a guy? I mean, the last 3 years, this all pro, 4 years in a row, Pro Bowl, all pro 2, all pro 1, all pro 2, and 300 catch seasons, right? I'm not misspeaking. This is still Ceedee Lamb that we're talking about. Guys are going to drop balls. T.O. had years he dropped double-digit balls. Like, not everyone's Larry Fitzgerald, but Larry Fitzgerald also didn't run like Ceedee, couldn't change the game like Ceedee on his own, right? So this is 74.5 is the number. So lead pipe locks. I'm betting Ceedee Lamb this week everywhere. ESPN has him projected to score 20 fantasy points. DraftKings, FanDuel, any of them have this crazy number out there where it's like the only way he doesn't hit this is if the Chiefs realize he's still Ceedee Lamb and they dare George Pickens to beat them like everyone else has done so far and lost.
By the way, on that, the numbers ran this week. George Pickens has actually been doubled more than Ceedee Lamb. So I don't know. I think I would try the approach the Steelers did against the Bengals and double both of them and bring your safeties down and say you're going to have to beat us over the top, and if that happens, that happens. But there really isn't a great answer with George Pickens playing like this, and now it's just up to Ceedee Lamb to elevate his game back to that level and make this offense as undefendable as it should be or is capable of. Any other over-unders you want to throw out there here before we move on?
So we can't talk about Kelce and not bring up the fact that I believe the only 2 tight ends to touch 60 yards are Brock Bowers and Mason Taylor, and they both needed 12 targets to do so. So you're seeing these lines out there at like 60.5 over under Travis Kelce. And on the one hand, I'm like, I got to double check. Is Hollywood Brown up? Is Rashee Rice playing? Is Xavier Worthy out? Because are you worried enough about the speed on the outside that you're playing shells, clouds, umbrellas, etc.? Is there a sky coverage that allows Kelce to catch 9 or 10 out of 12, 6.5 times 9, 6.5 times 10? That would put you over 60.5. But I also always feel like it's not just the stick nods, it's the move stuff. And inside the game plan, Kelce doesn't have that wiggle anymore. So it's like, do you think Eberflus is going to come out and play soft enough to let Kelce just eat you up from a fantasy and a betting perspective underneath?
I would doubt it. I think, and on top of that, Bowers, 2 weeks ago against the Cowboys, he had those 72 yards, but I think they found something in the process of that game with the rookie Revel, who's got length, he's got strength, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see quite a bit of Revel having success against Kelsey in this game. He might be the next emerging cornerback tight end stopper that's out there. Okay, I did check the injury report here. I brought it up. The only DNPs from today were Noah Gray and Trey Smith, and both have been designated as out. Christian Roland Wallace, cornerback with his back, he caught a DNP after being full practice on Monday. He must have been injured in practice, but he's out. Everybody else is good to go for the Chiefs.
All right, I got one more for you that's really interesting to me because we both think Ceedee is going to pop off. So you'd be press and send on anything 74.5 or above. You feel confident that they can keep bottled up 60.5 or under. This one blew my mind. Over under 9.5 rushing yards for Dak Prescott. And you go, that's one run. That's one first down. And the Chiefs are giving up top 5, I think, rushing attempts and yards as the quarterbacks. And you go, okay, but what does that really mean? Well, for the last 6 weeks, I think you're getting over 100 yards combined. So is that going to do that after we see him somersault and go Elway mode? Is that going to do that knowing the Chiefs blitz and he's just got to kind of sneak out the back end to one of those where they don't get home? You think Dak throws up a little bit of fantasy love, a little bit of over under? 9.5 rushing yards for Dak Prescott.
I know Schotty understands how important it is to run your quarterback. And the problem is for the Cowboys specifically, they ran into it against the Eagles, is what happens when they're getting home with 4, when they're getting pressure with 4, and they're dropping in coverage. It's the clock.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, you have to run them out of their clog and cover tactics. And it has absolutely been Dak's kryptonite. I think this season situation with 6 games to go, it demands Dak Prescott runs, because if you can make it into the playoffs and things continue to evolve the way they have the last couple of weeks, I could actually see the Cowboys winning the championship this year. I don't want my over 30 quarterback playing to run it if we're not going to make the playoffs. And usually if we need him to run to make the playoffs, I would say don't do it. We're fooling ourselves and putting our quarterback at serious injury risk. I think you really shouldn't run if you're a very strong contender until you get to the playoffs, and then all bets are off. We're going for the Super Bowl. But in this situation with 6 games to go, you got to risk it. If they could win out and make the playoffs, Newbear, I think they're that dangerous. I just don't know how the Cowboys look at it. I don't know how Dak looks at it. I mean, after suffering the injuries that he has being mobile, it would always be in the back of my head, like, this is just not good. And 2026 has to enter the equation, I think, when you are evaluating that, not only throughout the week, but, in the play itself.
It's fascinating because 11 games. Forget the Chiefs. Forget what the Chiefs are giving up. Let's think about what Dak is doing. 11 games played. He has 126 yards rushing. You do the math on that. I mean, that's 11 times. I mean, that's over 9.5. And then you go, well, this isn't college, right? Where the sack yards count against the quarterback. Sack yards come off the team passing stats. So I have to believe there's a couple of moments where he goes and it's 3rd and 4 and he goes and slides for 6. And it's
especially after how much they struggled inside the 10 last week. They were there twice and didn't get any points.
Javonte Williams, anyone? Javonte Williams.
I think Schotty, Dak, they're obsessed with, we got Pickens and Lamb and Fergie. Buddy, we can pass it anytime. It's never been
saw it back in Oxnard. I told you I was terrified this team was going to be, 84 Dolphins, greatest show on turf. Every time they got into a 7 shots or a goal line type of red zone, tight red zone, like any of the extended looks, there was never, and maybe this was Schotty kind of throwing them a bone and not being old school like his old man. And also being like McCarthy, we're going to be in pads. We're going to work hard. This isn't McCarthy's team anymore. But also the bone I'm going to throw you is we're not going to beat the shit out of each other. But when I was out in Oxnard, I was blown away by the ballet, the symphony, oh my God, Pickens and Lamb, they're on the same side. Oh my God, they motion Pickens. Oh my God, and it was over and over and over again. And now that has translated to a regular season where it's 2nd and 1 at the 1, and they want to throw it.
I mean, 3 in a row. It's brutal. Give up on that, please, Schottie. You have to acknowledge what is a decade of history. It's tough. I don't think this is just about Dak. It's about all quarterbacks. Run the bleeping ball in. And I think it's more catering to the big egos on your team. I think you're trying to get Lamb and Pickens touchdowns because that's going to make them happy. Forget that. That last week should be the last time we see that approach. If you got it inside the 5 with the first down, I want at least 3 downs to be running and the other one play action over the middle.
So you talked about hunger earlier and throughout, right? I mean, I'm less worried about, Chris Jones beats him up front, Dak will throw it away, right? That's what he does. But guys like Karlaftis off the edge who just never – guys like Nick Bolton, delay blitz or green dog, all these little fun things. Who's coming off the edge? Is it, you're going to get a little Trent McDuffie, game or whatever. But like Drew Tranquil, and not just because my wife's had a crush on him since he was at Notre Dame tearing his ACLs, because he's just like the most beautiful man in the world. He's really freaking good. And then, you start talking about these guys coming from all these different levels. And if Chris Jones has one of those games where he's dialed in, if Karlaftis is having one of those games where he's bending around the edge, here's Jerry Tillery getting singled and winning that matchup because, guys are hurt or battling injuries up front, or otherwise struggling, then this turns into a really interesting thing for Dak where I think he almost has to run them out of being as untamed and aggressive if they win early.
Okay, speaking of being perhaps untamed and aggressive, what was George Pickens thinking here exactly? Is this another Greg Hardy talking about Tom Brady's wife from 10 years ago? And I thought this was fake when I first saw it. Like, who did it first? An NFL drop or whatever, and they've done some flagrantly fraudulent content. So he posted on Instagram a picture of Brittany Mahomes. Tomorrow we feast. I don't know if that's a good look. I don't know if he had bad intentions. It's really difficult to get inside George Pickens' head. But I know if I'm on the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm a little bit more fired up to go play them. And maybe George Pickens is going to have his first fist fight of the year if somebody wants to defend the honor of their Hall of Fame quarterback and his wife.
Well, first of all, I just want to say shout out to George Pickens, creative director, for picking one of the most fire pictures of Brittany Mahomes that the world has ever seen, so that you actually have to think about, would you be in on Pickens if this is the message that he's trying to send? I mean, there's a lot that comes with this. You talked about the pinball machine that is.
Are you being nice?
No, dude. I saw this and I was like, man, George looked for this picture. George Spencer, this was not an accident. He found this picture and he was like, damn. I feel like he took it down because of the backlash. I feel like he wasn't trying to clap and say anything negative about her. I think he was just trying to take a shot at the king. And what did we learn, right? If
I'm going to take your girl. What is that? I'm going to take your girl. I think your girl's hot.
But we're talking about it now.
This
They're
college
talking about
stuff.
it. Exactly. So he's 24 years old. Mahomes is in his age 30 season. Mahomes is dad bod, right? And I feel like this stuff is so different now because, I mean, dude, when I was coming out of school, Facebook was like on campus, but it wasn't like it is now where you're getting dinged and pinged. That's Twitter, which isn't even called Twitter anymore. And they're doing polls. Should we go back to Twitter? But that's an Instagram screenshot that was deleted that doesn't exist anymore on Twitter. Like it's out of control. And these, maybe he thought it was Vine because that's coming back, or Snapchat, and it was going to be a disappearing message or something.
It's hard to say. Okay, a final story here on How About Wow. PFF upgraded their top 15 NFL rookies through 12 weeks, 11 games. Here you go. Donovan Ezuraku coming in number 3. You can't see it in the counting stats and the real disruptive plays, but the underlying metrics are showing Donovan Ezeraku is well on his way to being one of the best defensive ends in the game. 75 PFF run defense grade, which ranked 8th among edge defenders overall. He was one of the best run defenders at Boston College, but he's a smaller guy, and we wondered, is that going to immediately translate? And yes, it is. 22-year-old moved up to 2nd among rookie edges. He leads the class in run stops with 5 of his 13 coming in his past 3 games. A 35 positive play rate against the run, and the 2nd best PFF run defense grade over that span as well. Struggled to get after the quarterbacks in week 11 and 12, evidenced by a poor pass rush win rate, which was tied for 3rd worst, and he owns the 5th worst PFF pass rush grade in that span, but maintains a strong overall 70.1 mark for the season. So he probably got tangled up with what's his name, Mailata, quite a bit against Philadelphia. No excuse to not get home more against the Raiders, but overall, up and down rookie season a little bit, but for the net balance of it, he's been outstanding.
Where this gets really interesting is you've talked a lot, and I've echoed the sentiment. What does he look like after a full offseason in an NFL program at 10, 12? Because this is a guy 6'2" and a half, 6'2" and change, 6'2" and 5/8 or whatever it was that he measured. He was under 250 pounds. And he looks, over the course of a season as a rookie, and he's lean. He may even be closer to 240 right now, over the course of the season. And 248 plus 12 gets you to 260. And now you're talking about, that's what TJ Watt plays at and has played at for a long time. And you look at body types and you look at, arm length and hand size and all the different things. Like winning early, lean, long, playing high snap count. Maybe this is a guy that you keep long and lean and you don't try to turn into until later in the career when you lose a step and you need him to be a little bit, heavier. Yeah. The evolution of this guy's career, and I'm talking about a 10-plus year guy, because this is a dude who loves ball. He's smart. He does everything the right way. He's been productive in college. He's being productive as a rookie, and it's only going to get better from here. The evolution of this dude's body impacting his game, impacting the defense, especially if they keep all 320 million defensive tackles and play a lot of 5'2" monster.
No, that's a great point. I think you don't want to add any weight that slows you down, but I think he could get a lot stronger in his chest and his shoulders to give his hands a chance against some of these tackles that are 315 pounds.
Yeah.
They get him, and I would love it if he could stab them back maybe and make them reset their feet so we could wiggle by. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll be back soon to talk more about the Cowboys and Chiefs. Till then, how about wow?